It was raining lightly the morning I found out, the kind of March drizzle that never quite commits to being real rain. The first time I trusted someone to be there for my father, I was 7 years old, and it was my mother. The last time, I was 36, and it was the woman I was about to marry. I didn't have 29 years of proof yet that morning. I only had one Wednesday, and by the time it was over, that was already more than enough. By the next morning, that same woman was calling my phone 22 times before I'd even finished my coffee, and by then, there wasn't a single thing left for either of us to say that would change what I already knew. Welcome to Beyond Family Lies. If this is your first time here, get comfortable, because this one takes a turn you won't see coming. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from tonight. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 43 years old. I manage claims processing for a regional insurance company, which sounds boring until you understand that it's taught me exactly one thing that matters here: how to tell the difference between people who take responsibility and people who look for a reason it isn't theirs to take. In 14 years of reviewing claims, I've noticed the honest ones offer their reason before you ever have to ask for it. The other kind only produces one after they've already been caught. My car had been sitting at Vic's Auto Body on Delancey Street since Monday, dead alternator, a 2-day job that Vic kept pushing back because he was short-staffed. I'd been borrowing rides all week. That detail is going to matter in about 4 minutes. So does the fact that Vanessa and I had spent the better part of that spring touring houses 2 towns over, waiting on a wedding gift from my father neither of us had seen a dollar of yet, just a promise and a lawyer's name attached to it. Let me back up. Here's how it started. It was a Wednesday, March 11th, 8:40 in the morning. I was standing in my kitchen, waiting for the coffee maker to finish its cycle, when my phone rang. Not a text, a call. My father almost never calls before 9. "Dad?" "Nathan?" His voice was even, but there was a careful quality to it, the way a man sounds when he's decided in advance not to alarm you. "I need a small favor, nothing urgent." Nothing urgent, from my father, has meant something urgent every single time in 79 years of him saying it. "What's going on?" The pharmacy called. "My metoprolol's ready, the heart medication, but I'm down to half a pill left for this morning, and I stretched yesterday's dose to make it last, hoping it would carry me through. My car's still at the shop, same week as yours, if you can believe that. And Henderson's pharmacy closes at noon today for inventory, won't reopen till Thursday." I felt the floor tilt slightly, the way it always does when the words heart medication and closes at noon show up in the same sentence, about a man who'd had a stent placed 18 months earlier. Dr. Aguilar had been clear about it at the time. Missing even one dose of metoprolol could send his heart rate climbing in a way that mattered a great deal at 79. And my father, careful as he was about almost everything else in his life, had a habit of underselling how serious that particular warning had been. Okay, let me think. I looked at my own car keys hanging uselessly on the hook by the door. Uber wouldn't help. My father needed someone who could go inside, show ID, sign for a controlled prescription, and get it to him before noon, not just get him a ride to sit in a waiting room. "I don't have my car right now, Dad. It's at Vic's. Let me figure something out and call you back in 5 minutes. "There's no rush," he said, in the voice of a man who was absolutely rushing. I hung up and stood in my kitchen for exactly 4 seconds, coffee still dripping behind me, before I picked the phone back up. Vanessa was already at the salon 2 towns over, a fact I remembered mid-dial. She'd taken my sedan that morning, since her own car was getting new tires installed, which meant she had the only working vehicle either of us had access to within 20 minutes of my father's house. She picked up on the 3rd ring, a hairdryer humming somewhere behind her voice. "Hey babe. Vanessa, I need a favor. Dad's heart medication is at Henderson's pharmacy, ready for pickup, but the pharmacy closes at noon for inventory and won't reopen till Thursday. My car's at Vic's till tomorrow. Any chance you could swing by Henderson's before you head back? It's maybe 10 minutes out of your way." There was a pause. Not the pause of someone doing math on their schedule, the pause of someone deciding how to phrase something she'd already decided. "I have nails at 3. I actually laughed, once, thinking she'd misheard me. "Vanessa, this isn't about your afternoon. It's his heart medication. The pharmacy's closed until Thursday, if he doesn't get it before noon today." "I know what you said. I have nails at 3, Nathan, and I still need to shower and eat something before that. Henderson's is in the opposite direction from home. It's a 10-minute detour. It's a 10-minute detour there and a 10-minute detour back, and then I'm cutting it close for my appointment. A pause, the hairdryer clicking off behind her. Can't Walter just call someone else? Doesn't he have that neighbor, the fireman? He's retired, isn't he? I'm sure he'd rather help than have Walter sit there worrying about it. I stood there in my kitchen with the coffee maker still hissing behind me, phone against my ear, and something in my chest went very still and very cold, the exact temperature of a decision already being made without my permission. Understood, I said. Don't be like that. I'm not trying to be difficult, I've had this appointment for 3 weeks. I said understood, Vanessa, and I meant it in a way she wasn't hearing yet. Not agreement, recognition. The call ended, not slammed, just finished, the way conversations end when one person has already stopped negotiating. Not busy, not stretched thin, unwilling, wearing a very reasonable-sounding excuse. There's a difference, and I'd apparently needed 29 years and one Wednesday morning to finally see it clearly where my father was concerned. I have nails at 3, 4 words, and somehow they told me more about the next 40 years of my life than 3 years of dating had managed to. I called Danny Kowalski next. Danny had lived next door to my father for 11 years, ever since he retired off the Millbrook Fire Department at 52, with a bad knee and too much energy for retirement. He was the kind of man who still checked the oil in every car on the block whether anyone asked him to or not, and he'd been the one who called 911 the night of Dad's stent, the one who rode in the ambulance because Dad asked him to, and because I was 90 minutes away and driving too fast trying to close the distance. I'd tried to thank him properly for that night more than once. He always waved it off the same way, like gratitude embarrassed him more than the favor itself ever could. He picked up before the second ring finished. Nathan, everything all right with your dad? He's okay, but I need a favor, Danny. His heart medication's ready at Henderson's. The pharmacy closes at noon for inventory, doesn't reopen till Thursday, and neither of our cars are available right now. Any shot you could grab it? No pause at all. None. I'm already grabbing my keys. Give me 20 minutes. A pause. Keys jingling audibly on his end. You call your dad yet? Let him know I'm coming? Old man worries when things show up unannounced. That's it. No conditions. No mention of whatever his own Wednesday looked like before I called. I spent those 20 minutes pacing my kitchen, phone in hand, running through what I'd say to my father if Danny somehow couldn't make it in time either, if I had to call an ambulance instead, over something as preventable as a missed pill. I checked the clock every 90 seconds or so. 10:34. 10:41, 10:47. Each minute felt longer than it had any right to. He phoned me back at 10:52. Got it. Pharmacist made me show my license twice since I'm not on the pickup authorization. Had your dad on speaker to confirm it was fine. He's a little embarrassed about the fuss, for what it's worth. I'm heading to his place now. Danny, I owe you. You don't owe me a thing. This is what neighbors are for. He said it plainly, like it was the most obvious fact in the world, the kind of thing that didn't need explaining twice. He dropped the medication off at 11:14, 46 minutes before the noon cutoff. Here's the part I only pieced together later, from both of them telling it slightly differently. Danny let himself in the side door the way he always did, set the little white pharmacy bag on the counter, and found my father sitting at the kitchen table looking, in Danny's words, like a man trying very hard not to look worried. Here you go, Walter. Pharmacist made me sign for it twice, treated me like I was trying to steal your heart medication. Danny pulled out the chair across from him without being asked. You eat yet today? I'm fine, Danny. You didn't have to bring it in person. You could have just left it on the porch. Could have, Danny agreed, already filling the kettle at the sink like he lived there. Didn't want to. You've got things to do. I've got a knee that aches when it rains, and a television that plays the same 3 channels I've already seen, none of them worth the volume. Nothing pressing. He set 2 mugs down. How do you take it these days? Still black? Or did retirement finally soften you up? Black, my father said, and something in his voice loosened slightly. You really don't have to sit, Danny. I know I don't have to, Walter. Danny said it plainly, pouring the coffee like the matter was already settled. That's kind of the point. Nathan's going to feel bad about this, you know. Vanessa couldn't get away. Nathan didn't ask me to feel good about anything. He asked if I could grab a prescription. I said yes. That's the whole transaction. Danny took a sip of his own coffee. People make it complicated when it isn't. They sat like that for 20 minutes, my father told me later, talking about nothing in particular, the noon deadline already behind them, with room to spare. When Danny finally stood to leave, my father caught his sleeve for just a second. I appreciate this, more than I probably say. You don't have to say it at all, Danny told him. Just answer your door next time I check on you. That's the whole deal. He paused at the door, hand on the frame. And eat something more than toast today, Walter. I mean it. My father called me at 11:40, his voice steadier and more settled than it had been that morning. Danny brought it by himself, stayed for coffee, wouldn't leave when I told him he didn't need to. That's good, Dad. I'm really glad. There was a pause on his end, the specific kind that meant he was choosing his next words carefully. I didn't say anything for a second. I didn't want to be a bother, my father said, quieter now. I never do, but he came anyway, just showed up, like it was Tuesday. It was Wednesday, Dad. You know what I mean. A small, tired laugh. I keep thinking, at my age, you start finding out who actually shows up, and who just says they will. Danny's shown up every single time for 11 years, never once made me feel like I was asking for too much. I felt something tighten in my throat that I didn't examine too closely at the time, standing there in my own kitchen with the phone still warm against my ear, the coffee finally ready and forgotten. Vanessa couldn't make it work today, I told him, testing the words out loud for the first time. Another pause, longer this time. I heard, he said carefully. Danny mentioned you'd called him after trying her first. I didn't ask why she couldn't. A beat. I didn't have to ask. If you've stuck with us this long, you already know these stories tend to turn somewhere nobody expects, and this one is no exception, so stay with me, because it's worth every minute. Vanessa called that evening at 7:15, right as I was heating up leftovers I didn't have much appetite for. Hey, is your dad okay? Nothing happened, right? He's fine? He's fine, Vanessa. Danny got the medication to him in time. Oh, good. I felt bad all day, honestly, but I really couldn't reschedule that appointment. It's booked out for weeks. I stood in my kitchen and waited for something, an actual apology, any acknowledgement of what the day had actually been about, and it never came. You're being quiet, she said. Are you upset with me? I'm processing, I said. Nathan, it was a manicure appointment versus a 10-minute pharmacy run that your dad's neighbor was clearly happy to do anyway. I don't think I did anything wrong here. You're being a little dramatic about this, don't you think? There it was. Not an apology, a defense, dressed up as concern, with the blame quietly redirected back onto me for reacting at all. Can we at least talk about this tomorrow? She asked. In person, not like this. We can talk tomorrow, I said. Okay. Good. A pause. For what it's worth, I really am glad your dad's okay. I know you are, I said, and I meant it, which somehow made the rest of it worse, not better, the way sincerity does, when it's standing next to something that never quite arrived. I'll talk to you tomorrow, I said, and I ended the call before she could turn it into something longer. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for the cheap moments, the ones that cost them nothing, to prove they'd show up for the expensive ones. Vanessa failed that test on a Wednesday morning that cost her exactly 10 minutes, and something about that arithmetic stayed with me long after the call ended. I didn't drive home that night. Not really a decision, more a set of directions my hands already knew. I found myself outside my father's house at 8:30, porch light on, his old Buick still absent from the driveway where it usually sat. I sat in my rental car for a minute before going in, not composing what I'd say, just sitting with the quiet of it. My father opened the door before I even knocked, like he'd been listening for headlights. Didn't expect you tonight, he said. Wanted to see you were settled. He studied my face for a moment, in that particular way he has. The same look he used to give me at 17, when he knew I was leaving something out. You want to come in, or you want to just stand on my porch thinking? I came in. We didn't talk about Vanessa. We watched half an old Western on the television, with the volume too low, and I stayed until almost 11, and neither of us said much of anything that needed saying out loud. Driving home that night, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in months, counting backward through every small thing Vanessa had ever weighed against my father before agreeing to it. A rescheduled dinner here. A missed birthday call there, always with a reasonable-sounding explanation attached, always just reasonable enough that pointing it out alone would have made me the unreasonable one. I didn't reach any conclusion that night. I just noticed, for the first time, that I'd been keeping the count at all. Some decisions don't announce themselves. They just settle into a house quietly, the way dust does, until one day you notice everything looks different than it used to. Here's what I didn't know yet, sitting on that couch. 9 months earlier, before Vanessa and I had even set a wedding date, my father had gone to see Priya Shah, the attorney who'd handled his and my late mother's estate planning for the better part of 2 decades. He'd told her he wanted to set aside $40,000 as a wedding gift toward a down payment on a house for Vanessa and me, structured as an attorney-administered escrow account, released only upon presentation of a signed purchase agreement in both our names. Priya had been careful about the structure specifically because it was his money alone, never touched by marriage, never transferred into any joint account either of us held, which meant it remained entirely his to direct until the day it was actually disbursed. My father called Priya on Thursday morning, the day after Henderson's medication run. "Priya, it's Walter Cole. I want to redirect the escrow account, the one set aside for Nathan and Vanessa's house." "Of course, Walter. Can that be done without touching anything ever titled to Nathan or Vanessa? It's always been solely in your name, never transferred, never jointly titled. You have full authority to redirect it however you'd like. Set up a dedicated fund instead, then. For my own care, whatever I end up needing as I get older, home health aides, equipment, physical therapy down the road. I can have that structured the same way, Walter, solely in your name, released only against invoices you or an appointed caregiver submit. Nothing anyone else could touch. That's exactly what I want. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow morning." He told me all of this Friday morning, sitting at his kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee between us. "The money was never going anywhere but toward taking care of the people it was meant to protect," he said. "I've just decided who that protection needs to cover first. Is that even something you can just redo? Legally, I mean." "That was my first question too," my father admitted. "But certainty isn't the same as being right, Nathan, and I've had a few days now to sit with the difference. The account was always in my name only, structured that way on purpose, never touched by the marriage that hadn't even happened yet. No joint title, no beneficiary locked in until disbursement. If this were ever challenged, the paperwork holds exactly as written." I sat with that for a long moment. "Your mother used to say something," he said, turning his coffee mug slowly on the table without drinking from it. "She said you can tell everything about a person by watching what they do the one time it actually costs them something. Not what they say they'd do. What they do, the one time it isn't convenient." He looked up at me. "I spent 30 years thinking that was just something your mother said to make me feel better about the sacrifices she made for this family. Wednesday, I finally understood she meant it as a warning too. I'm not doing this to punish anybody," he said, and I believed him completely, because there was no heat in his voice at all, just the same steady tone he's used my whole life to explain things that mattered. "I'm doing it because Wednesday told me something true, and I've learned the hard way that the truth doesn't usually announce itself twice. Danny showed up because that's who Danny is. I want what I have left to go toward the people who show up, not the people who explain why they didn't." If this story's landing with you, do me a favor before the ending, hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment telling me what you'd have done in Nathan's position. It genuinely helps this channel, and I read every single one. Vanessa found out on Friday afternoon. Priya's paralegal called her directly. A courtesy call to confirm the previously discussed wedding gift structure had been formally redirected, effective immediately, per my father's instruction. Priya told me later that Vanessa's voice went from confused to sharp within about 10 seconds. "There has to be some mistake. That money was for the house. Walter told us himself, at Thanksgiving. He said it in front of everyone. I'm just confirming the change on file. Mr. Cole retains full authority over that account. It was never jointly titled. I need to speak with him directly, today if possible. I can pass along a message, but Mr. Cole isn't available to take calls today." He wasn't unavailable. He was sitting in his own kitchen with me, going through the paperwork, calm as I'd seen him in months. My phone started at 6:50 that evening. By 7:40 I had 11 missed calls. By the next morning, 22. Did she really, truly believe none of it would ever catch up to her? I let every single one of them go to voicemail. Not out of strategy. I genuinely didn't have anything to say yet that wouldn't come out sharper than I wanted it to. Saturday morning, 9:15, she was standing on my porch when I opened the door, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes red-rimmed like she hadn't slept. "You need to explain this to me," she said before I'd even gotten the door fully open, voice already climbing. "Your father just took away $40,000 that was supposed to be our house. Our house, Nathan." "It was never our house, Vanessa. It was his gift, structured his way, held in his name the whole time." "Over a manicure appointment? That's insane. That's genuinely insane." "You had nails at 3, I said. That's what you told me. Not a family emergency, not a work crisis. Nails at 3. That's the whole reason my 79-year-old father almost went a day without his heart medication." "It's not about the appointment," I said quietly. "It's about what the appointment told both of us. You had 10 minutes to give a 79-year-old man his heart medication, and instead, you told me to have him call the neighbor. The neighbor was happy to do it. You said so yourself." "He was happy to do it," I said, "because he's the kind of person who shows up. You're upset that my father finally noticed the difference between the two of you. That's not who I am, Nathan. One appointment doesn't define me. Maybe not by itself," I said. "But it's not really the appointment I keep coming back to. It's how fast the excuse came, before I'd even finished explaining what was happening." She stood there on my porch for a long moment, the anger in her shoulders slowly folding into something that looked closer to fear. "So what, we're done? Over one bad morning?" "It was never really about the morning." I said it quieter than I meant to. "It's about the fact that when I picture 40 more years of this, of calling you first, and getting an appointment schedule instead of an answer, I don't feel relief. I feel tired already." That's not the same as 40 years, Nathan. That's one bad Wednesday, one appointment." "You didn't offer a reason until after I pushed back," I said. "That's the part I noticed. Honest people tell you why before you ever have to ask." "It's never just the one thing," I said. "You know that as well as I do. Wednesday just happened to be the morning I finally let myself count them." "We're done," I said, because one morning was enough to show me 29 years of pattern I hadn't let myself see clearly until now. I'm not marrying someone I have to hope shows up. I already know what that costs, and I've spent my whole life watching my father pay it in small ways he never once complained about. That's not fair, Nathan. It's the only fair thing either of us has said all week." She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue that too, then seemed to think better of it. Whatever she saw in my face apparently settling the matter for her. She left without another word, and I watched her car pull out of my driveway, taillights disappearing around the corner of Maple and 9th, and I stood there in the cold morning air a moment longer than I needed to, waiting to feel something closer to grief than what actually arrived, which was mostly just quiet. I drove to my father's afterward. He was at his kitchen table, same 2 mugs from Thursday morning, a crossword folded open that he wasn't really working on. "She came by," I told him. Figured she might. He didn't look up right away. "How'd it go?" "About how you'd expect," I said, and something in the way I said it must have told him the rest, because he didn't ask for details. He nodded slowly, set his pen down, and looked at me the way he had my whole life, patient, unhurried, like he already knew where this conversation was going to land, before either of us said it out loud. "You know what I keep coming back to," he said. Danny didn't hesitate, not for 1 second. "Vanessa's known me 3 years, sat across from me at Thanksgiving, and she hesitated over 10 minutes, like it cost her something enormous." "Yeah. Some people you don't have to wonder about," he said. "The Wednesday just finally showed you which one she was, and honestly, Nathan, that's usually a mercy, even when it doesn't feel like one yet." Danny let himself in the side door partway through, the way he always did, refilled both our mugs without asking, and sat down across from my father, like it was any other Saturday. Nobody mentioned Vanessa. Nobody needed to. I sat with the two of them a while longer that morning, not saying much, just being there, which was the only thing that had ever actually mattered in the first place. Watching my father fill in the last few letters of a crossword he'd been carrying around since Thursday, I understood something I don't think I'll ever unlearn. People will tell you exactly who they are in the moment it's inconvenient to be anyone else. The trick isn't waiting for a crisis to find that out. The trick is paying attention on an ordinary Wednesday, long before the stakes get high enough to make the answer expensive. It was never really about the medication, or the 10 minutes, or even the $40,000, sitting quietly in an account that had never once belonged to anyone but him. It was about who answers the phone the first time, without weighing what it cost them. And who calculates the cost before they've even said yes, down to knowing exactly what time their nails were booked. A few weeks later, Priya's office finalized the new care fund. No drama, just paperwork and a signature. My father sent me a photo of the first invoice it covered, a home safety rail for his shower stairs, nothing more, no caption attached. He didn't need one. I think about all those weekends Vanessa and I spent touring houses 2 towns over, picturing furniture in rooms neither of us ever actually moved into, and I don't regret for 1 second where the money went instead. Vanessa never called again after that Saturday. I never called her either. Some doors close so quietly you barely notice the moment it happens. You just notice, sometime later, how much lighter the house feels without them. If this one hit home for you, let us know in the comments, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.